right.
Shalom,
Shalom.
y'all. How y'all doing?
Shalom, doing well.
All
All
praise.
praise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you can you hear that? So that way it's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Torah.
all
All
praise.
praise.
Are y'all still able to see me on the?
Mm-hmm. Got you and your screen.
My apologies. Technical issues here.
I got it right here.
Okay, so
It's
y'all
your
can see.
camera.
I turned it off.
And that's what I'm gonna hold up here.
Praises.
Yeah,
No praises.
yeah.
Oh, we probably need to.
All right. All praises. So, yeah, new series, new lesson. We'll probably be on this one for a little while. We'll spend some time on it.
No praises.
But it's Am I Too Opinionated? So it's something for us to really consider and think about because we're going to see like we are supposed to be, when we enter into covenant, representatives of the Father and not of self. So the thing is going to be, how can we reconcile us being opinionated and representing our opinions when we represent the Father? It's going to be a imbalance there. And then what happens is, what, because we are walking around with his covenant on us, what happens is people see that and then they think that's the Father.
That's what y'all about. Oh, that's what y'all say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want no parts of that.
Now he got to deal with us because we misrepresented him, right? All praises. So it really is something to get a good handle on. All right, so disclaimer. The scriptures expressed in this study. Now I got to do it in the voice. Oh, yeah, told off for that. I mean, no, yeah, you are fine. I just need to. There we go. It should. Okay, it should be any moment now switching over. All right, all praises. All praises. So I was saying I need to do it in the TV voice. The scriptures expressed in this study are those of the author and not my own. Viewer discretion is advised. Like, but this is one of those lessons, right? Like, today is kind of like an intro, but as we going through it, we're gonna really start digging through and really looking at this thing. Because from a macro level, this is really kind of what the problem has been for our people.
Come on.
Right. So in this study, we will look at opinions, how they are formed, and how they can affect our ability to serve Elohim. So the guy in the upper right hand corner, he should be like moving the sword, but for whatever reason, he's not moving the sword right now. But yeah. But Hebrews chapter 4, verse 11, right? And basically what I'm getting at is that these scriptures, when they come out, and these lessons when they come out, it's not specific to any one individual. These are going out to us all, self included. Hebrews 4:11 says, "Let us therefore do our utmost to enter into that rest, lest anyone fall after that same example of disobedience. For the word of Elohim is living and working and sharper than any two-edged sword, cutting through even to the dividing of being and spirit, and of joints and of marrow, and able to judge the thoughts and intentions of the heart. And there is no creature hidden from his sight, but all are naked and laid bare before the eyes of him with whom is our account. Right. So just something to think about. Like these lessons, let's just say they have a way of cutting me just like they cut anybody else, and we wouldn't have it any other way. That's how it's supposed to be.
All praises.
All right. Oh, there he goes. Now he wants to move the sword. All right. So, am I too opinionated? So, the question, we got a few questions, and just keep these in mind as we're going through it. What are opinions? How are they formed? And then, can our opinions be influenced or changed over time? And so, way in latter parts, not today, we really gonna look at especially that last one, right? But just to get a preview of it is like, can they be changed or influenced over time? Your opinion? Well, yeah. He says in one place, when I was a child, I brought that out last week, right? When I was a child, I thought like a child. When I got older, I moved on to things of maturity, right? I should have grown up with the time, moved from the milk to the meat. You're gonna see that as time goes by, Todai, as time goes by, your positions, your viewpoints, those things change. But the word is what?
Unchanged.
It's unchanging. It's forever. So that tells me that what? The opinion is not something that can be relied upon,
Come on.
right? All right. So definition of an opinion. So an opinion is a view or judgment formed about something. And here's the spinner. Not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. Right? So you can have an opinion about something and it not be based in truth. Right? Similar words, belief, judgment, thoughts, a school of thought, thinking, or a way of thinking. And these are all things that we all have, right? We all have a way of thinking. We all have beliefs. We all have judgments. We all have thoughts about one matter or another, right? One person, one thing or another, you name it, right? So the beliefs or views of a large number or majority of people about a particular thing, right? Their example is the changing climate of opinion. Again, an opinion is something that is changing. An estimation of the quality or worth of someone or something. I had a higher opinion of myself than I deserved.
Oof.
Mm.
In there.
Mm-hmm. All praises. We're gonna dig into all of these, but we're gonna see that sometimes you can have a higher opinion of yourself. Sometimes you can have a lower opinion of yourself.
In there.
Right? You're gonna see all in all throughout the whole process. An opinion is something that is unreliable. It's gonna lie to you.
Some
Right?
Emotions.
Mm.
Well,
Mm. All praises. So, is it safe to say that our opinions have the ability to sway or influence our faith? Right.
Oh, yeah.
Now, notice that an opinion it can be a belief, right? It's all of these, but then faith is what?
A belief.
Mm, right?
Uh-huh.
So Romans 10:17, right? Faith coming by hearing, hearing of the word of Elohim. The word of Elohim is that thing that is what? Unchanging, right? But your opinion is a belief in something that can be changing. So you're gonna see that the opinion, it can be at odds and it can be at war with your faith, right? And then you sometimes the Father will make sure that you get put in a position where you have to choose between one or the other. All praises. So notice that opinions are, you got something on? All praises. So notice that opinions are beliefs, but they are not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. If a belief is not based on a fact, wouldn't this mean it's based on a falsehood? Right? So during this lesson, we will look at how our opinions can be our downfall, right? So, Romans chapter 10, starting at verse 1, he says, truly, brothers, my heart's desire and prayer to Elohim for Israel is for deliverance. For I bear them witness that they have an ardor or a zeal for Elohim, but not according to knowledge. For not knowing the righteousness of Elohim and seeking to establish their own righteousness, they did not subject themselves to the righteousness of Elohim. So notice here that the issue is that while Israel had a zeal for Elohim, a fervence or a heat, a burning desire for Elohim, they had some opinions that differed from the righteousness of Elohim. A lack of knowledge regarding Elohim's judgments, commands, and laws, combined with the desire to uphold their opinions, resulted in them rejecting the righteousness already set by Elohim. It is worth noting that this can lead to your own undoing because this knowledge of Elohim is able to save your soul, right? So James 1:19 says, so then, my beloved brothers, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, for the wrath of man does not work the righteousness of Elohim. Right? So again, swift to hear, slow to speak. Why is that? Right? Okay, not making a rash oath.
Don't always see everything immediately. Sometimes you gotta let the play develop.
All praises.
Move in haste and be guilty of agreeing with the wrong thing. Or, a lot of times we can move in haste and be guilty of agreeing with the wrong thing. A lot of times, I think it's, I don't know, I was reading something, it might have been a post that was said, or that was made this statement, but says a lot of times when we're told a story or we hear something about something, we hear the liar first.
We're not gonna get to that today. Well, a little bit.
So yeah, given time, being slow to speak and swift to hear, let me listen to this more so than I'm ready to form an opinion because it's possible I'm listening to the liar first.
And then for me, you always want to make sure that you are speaking what Yahuwah says. So be careful before your emotions, your heart, and your feelings show first.
All praises. It says, for the wrath of man does not work the righteousness of Elohim. Now notice, same exact phrase, it's righteousness of Elohim, right? Now, for a lack of knowledge, not understanding this righteousness of Elohim, they went to make forth their own, right? You're going to see that this being swift to hear and slow to speak is the opposite, right? Being slow to wrath is the opposite of working the righteousness of Elohim. Therefore, put away all filthiness and overflow of evil and receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your lives, or in some translations, they say your souls. So, Hosea 4:6 says, my people have perished for a lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I reject you from being priests for me. Since you have forgotten the Torah of your Elohim, I also forget your children. Right? So this is, this is it's a deep thing when we're really thinking about and really understanding, okay, the Father ain't playing with us and our opinions. He don't care about them. What he's standing on is, I gave you right rulings, I gave you judgments, I gave you commands, I gave you laws, statutes. These things you said, all that you have said, that I will do. So now we're going to see. All right. So what does it mean to have a zeal, but not according to knowledge? How does this work and how can you find yourself in this situation?
Not according to knowledge. I put the cart before the horse.
Mm.
if I can draw this like equivalence, when I think about having a zeal but then no knowledge, immediately, and I guess then take it for what it's worth, with a grain of salt, whatever. I look at the entirety of this awakening, how it has been. We find out some information. It's uplifting to us, a little gratifying, a lot to hold on to and be not prideful in a bad way about, but it's like, yo, no, I actually mean something. And I almost like, and I liken it also to back in the 60s, 50s and the 60s when the Nation of Islam was real big. A lot of people were gravitating towards that because it has substance. It was something that was uplifting to our people. It gave us hope. It gave us something to be proud about and to cling to, operating in that. And so we have a fervency, to do things and run full force into something. But the lack of knowledge portion, when we look at it in the long run, what's the outcome? What's the total cost? What's the what dare I say, like I said, what's the cost? Because what I kind of see now with I mean, I guess there's a resurgence in these kind of movements now. Nation of Islam is, getting a resurgence in people. This awakening is getting a influx of people who are quote unquote waking up. Before a time there was like the only people who were doing that was like jailhouse. You clinging to something, so you got a zeal for it, you have a fervency for it because it gives you a little whatever oomph. But then because there's no knowledge to it, knowledge base or something to hold on to beyond that, quick to fall off of it, quick to easy come, easy go. Basically, I guess that's what it makes me kind of think on.
If I could just adding to, like you spoke on this awakening, finding out, okay, we're not just descendants of slaves, but the reason we became slaves is because we were chosen to do a certain job and we dropped the ball um, in a very disrespectful and inconsiderate way. Zeal, but not according to knowledge. Oh, we the people. We supposed to be teaching the world righteousness. So now I'm zealous, and so much so I'll go out in public and tell the world about themselves, but not having a sound enough knowledge base to realize he wanted me to get myself together first. And in fact, I can't help get anybody else together until myself has been gotten together to the point to where I'm not misrepresenting what we're supposed to be in a sound relationship with the creator of all things, to where it looks like we should be labeled a terrorist group when in fact that's not the case. That's zeal without knowledge of the creator and his ways.
All praises.
I just said if the knowledge is not there, we can give or share false information, false expectations of what Yahuwah commands from us. Then we will be held accountable for possibly leading someone down the wrong path or road. We want to make sure we present Yahuwah as being set apart, and his ways and thoughts are not like ours. So we need Yahuwah's judgments and his commands and his decrees, his Torah, to be what we share, not our own personal opinions or thoughts. So I guess with the zeal, it's excellent to be happy and excited, but if you don't have the knowledge, you can create your own knowledge, and not share Yahuwah's knowledge in his own ways.
All praises. Yeah, we're gonna have a whole section on that. Not today, but a whole section on that particular part right there. So in Romans chapter 10, the context is that Israel had a fervence for Elohim, but not according to knowledge. This caused them to walk in ignorance of Elohim's righteousness. So when we're looking at the word knowledge, in Romans 10, the word there is G 1922. Epignosis, recognition, that is, by implication, full discernment, acknowledgement, knowledge, right? So the Hebrew word for that is H 1847 da'at, right? The root of the word da'at is yada, which speaks of an intimate knowledge, an intimate knowing, right? So the root of this is G 1921, epignosco, which means to know upon some mark, that is to recognize, by implication, to become fully acquainted with, to acknowledge, right? To perceive. So also in Romans 10, he talks about ignorance, right? And how they, being ignorant, chose to do things their way instead of choosing the ways of the Father, right? Word for ignorance is G50, agnoeo, as a negative participle, not to know, through lack of information or intelligence, right? So your ignorance is it means you don't know, right? Through a lack of information or intelligence. By implication, to ignore, through disinclination, right? So a disinclination is I'm not inclined towards XYZ, right? This is the last thing I want to do. To be ignorant, to not know, not understand, right? For something to be unknown. All right. And then just again, keep in mind that opinions are views or judgments that are formed about something, but not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. So you can have an opinion and be in ignorance. You can have an opinion and not have knowledge.
Is it safe to say you can have an opinion based off of fear?
Absolutely.
And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge what someone put in the chat. It was the answer also to that question. What does it mean to have a zeal with no knowledge? And it was that passion, but selfish, according to self gratification. I thought this was really hit it on the head, like that passion. So you might have a passion for it, you know. Unrighteousness according to our own beliefs or what we feel. You know, so I just wanted to highlight that because that was a good one, a told one too.
All praises. Excellent. So what happens when we operate out of ignorance? So we've seen that it can cause us to perish, but why is that? Right. So we know that we perish for a lack of knowledge, but why is that? Right. So Matthew 13:13 says, because of this, I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. So notice that there is already a lack of understanding, right? And in them, the prophecy of Isaiah is completely filled, which says, hearing you shall hear, and by no means understand, and seeing you shall see, and by no means perceive. For the heart of this people has become thickened, and their ears are hard of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, lest they should understand with their heart and turn back, and I heal them. And blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For truly I say to you, that many prophets and righteous ones long to see what you see, and did not see it, and to hear what you hear, and did not hear it. You then hear the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is that sown by the wayside. So, how does the wicked one snatch away the word from a heart? Right? It's through ignorance. Mm, all praises. Notice that this is done by getting you to form or agree with an opinion that differs from the word or instruction of Elohim. This is done because of a lack of understanding. Next, we will look at an example of how this can take place in the book of Jonah.
All praises.
Did you have something?
I have a lot, but I'm trying to process it.
All praises. So, looking at Jonah, right? Jonah is a prime example of this. So, Jonah chapter 1, starting at verse 1, it says, And the word of Yahuwah came to Jonah, son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, the great city, and cry out against it, for their evils have come up before me. But Jonah rose up to flee to Tarshish from the presence of Yahuwah and went down to Yaffo and found a ship going to Tarshish. And he paid the fare and went down into it to go with them to Tarshish from the presence of Yahuwah. So you got a little map here, right? So point A is where he is. He's supposed to be going to point B, but instead of going to point B, he hopping on the boat so he can go to point C, way across across the earth. Like he trying to go way across town.
They're gonna get a warning. They're gonna be for me.
He's trying to get as far away. I mean, basically,
a man with a made up mind.
basically,
Oh, you're so goofy.
yeah.
I mean, look at it. Like,
Yeah.
I've never seen that on a map before. This
Yeah.
is mind blowing. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't just go to the next city. Like,
Nah, he hopping on a boat and he getting as far away from this as he can possibly can get.
wow.
Right?
Man, I'm going to Spain on y'all. We're about to go hit her, Mary.
It's deep. So notice that in the case of Jonah, his ability to obey the word of Yahuwah was limited to its agreement with his opinions. He had a different opinion regarding the Ninevites, how the Ninevites should have been dealt with. Right? So he had a different opinion regarding how the Ninevites should have been dealt with. What influenced his opinion towards them? What caused him to choose his opinion over the word of Yahuwah? Right? Got something? All praises.
Just when you asked, how does the wicked one take the word from your heart? He does it by giving or providing you another way out. So instead of Yahuwah's way, now he's offering you, what about this way? It may be less work, it may take less time, and maybe get it now. Get your desire, get whatever pleasure you want now, instead of you having to work for it or wait for it. And then most importantly, he wants to snatch, who you are from Abba Yahuwah. And he knows what the end result is if you endure until the end, the kingdom of Elohim. So he gives you another way out, and maybe think about Kavwa and Adam and Eve. So that was the fall. He gave her another. Well, no, you won't. Surely, you won't. You're not gonna die. He popped another question in her head, which caused her to, oh, okay. So yeah.
All praises. We will be going there, and then, Father willing, not today. We're gonna go and really like dig into that point there because it requires a lot of attention. Because when you're looking for it, you see it like, oh no, this is occurring all throughout the scripts.
Yes, absolutely. Right. And he summed it up so well when he said, sorry, I was gonna say he summed it up so well when he gave that parable and said, "You planted good seed in the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else came and planted. It was an enemy that came and planted. I'm not the seed."
Mm-hmm.
It is so simple, but yet so profound.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to ask your question. because I had gotten up for a second. It was what could have made Jonah
Hmm.
a
I'll go
uh,
back.
yeah.
Hmm. So basically, he had a different opinion regarding how the Ninevites should have been dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
So, what influenced his opinion towards them,
Mm.
right? And what caused him to choose his opinion over the word of Yahuwah?
Um, I would think because given if I remember correctly, who the Ninevites are or were, their history, also their current behaviors.
Mm.
So thinking, like like the Hawk brought out, like my each brought out, they go get a warning. It ain't finna be for me, you know.
Hmm.
He thinking they're not worthy
Mm.
of that kind of mercy. Kill them all now. You know, yeah. So his opinion of them was an extremely, to me, it speaks to an extremely low opinion of these people, given how they had behaved, currently behaving, and continue to do and behave and act. So he didn't even want to step foot in their city that much. He didn't want to be anywhere near those kinds of people, you know. So I think that to me is
Exactly. And then like he wanted a certain judgment to occur, step in the place of the father.
mm-hmm.
So like you said, mercy. So it's like, yeah, it's upset with the fact that he couldn't take the fact that okay, it's a possibility that they will be spared because in his brain now y'all deserve every bit of penalty, death, destruction that comes your way. But then now you're stepping in the place of the Father. He said, vengeance is his. He will repay. So now instead of you being humbled and staying in that, being a servant, now you're exalting yourself and trying to be in a place of the one who provides the ultimate judgment.
All praises.
And I think this is all praises to the Most High. I think as we continue to chew on this a little more in regards to this current topic, am I too opinionated? I think this is a prime story for this because um, there's that zeal portion of it,
Mhm.
but lack of knowledge, not
Mm.
fully understanding the one that you serve,
Mhm.
not fully understand it. Come on,
Mhm.
what do you think he meant when he said and he announced himself to Moshe? I am merciful.
Mhm.
I am boom. I am boom. Like
Mhm.
these are the things that he meant. And the character of the father, I can't even say honestly that I understand the fullness of the father because I don't.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't. I know what I read.
Mhm.
I go by what
Mhm.
I read, but there's something about having a personal um, revelation about that because of how he's operated with you,
Mhm.
as we see Yonah is going to get
Mhm.
that personal revelation on many fronts
Mhm.
because of how the Most High operates with him. But at least up to this point, I can see it where okay, he has the zeal because hey, he's a man of the Most High. He's
Mhm.
going to go, you know, anything else but that. I'll do other
Mhm.
stuff, not that though. So and he'll talk. We see when he's he praying, he's doing. So he has that
Mhm.
zeal for the Most High, but he doesn't have a full knowledge of the one that he serves because he didn't understand that the Most High would rather the wicked to repent as opposed to destroy his own creation. He would rather that you turn and do justice and judgment and righteousness as opposed to having to shed the blood that he spent so much time and crafted so beautifully. If I make something, why would I just want to watch it be destroyed?
Mm-hmm.
Just being a creative. If I spend time drawing a picture, kind of want to put it up on the wall, it's something like that. Like, I don't want, so I can only imagine for the Most High, he spent however much time, whatever, making mankind and putting the thought process into this whole existence. Why would he want just everything to be destroyed? Literally, I look in the scripts and that's like his last resort.
Mm-hmm.
It's like his last resort.
Mm-hmm.
So not understanding that having the knowledge of his creator, but the zeal for his service.
Small, small thing. All of it's just beautifully resonating. Just the opinion that it made me think about when you see someone in a fallen state. Why I'm always careful just to because you just really you don't want to speak too soon, and you don't want to say something. Oh, that was the father. Who did that? Uh, I just yeah, it's deep. Am I too opinionated? Like, it's always best just to stay in the state of prayer. Try to encourage the best way you can, and unless the Father has given you a word to say, then all praises definitely speak on behalf of Abi Yahuwah if He tells you to. But I'm just saying, like, yeah, that we really have to be careful what we are speaking from our mouths. Like opinions, it's a big word. I yield.
Oh, praises. Um, I would just say, when you personally suffer behind someone's spiritual condition, it's easy to take it personal and forget that it's spiritual.
All praises.
So that could be a deciding factor of his opinion about
You could personally suffer some things. It's like,
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because when we thinking about it, we'll get to it.
all
But
praises.
yeah, Jonah is doing something very, very specific. And it's when you look at it, it's like, oh, whoa. Yeah, oh, whoa.
Ooh.
So the days of Jonah were days of oppression. He saw his people being overrun by outside nations. He understood well the ways of the wicked nations, and this perhaps influenced his opinion of the nation he was sent to warn. We will see how this influenced his opinion and perception of what was right and wrong with regard to dealing with the Ninevites, right? So 2 Kings 14, verse 23 says, in the 15th year of Amaziah, son of Joash, the king of Judah, Jeroboam, son of Joash, this is Jeroboam the second, not the first, the sovereign of Israel, began to reign in Shomron or Samaria and reigned 41 years. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. So now, already, what is this telling you about the state of his own people? Right? Okay. No, he did not turn away from all the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, that's Jeroboam the first, who made Israel sin. He restored the border of Israel from the entrance of Hamath to the sea of the Arabah. Now, even though he was wicked, I touched on this either last week or the week before. Don't get it twisted and think just because the father's moving a certain way that he's okay with your mess. That's a false conclusion to come to, right? It's the wrong opinion to have.
Yeah.
Because he's moving and he's doing things according beating to his own beat of his own drum. He moving according to no, this is what I said I'm gonna do, and this is why I'm gonna do it. Right? So even though he continuing in the sins of Jeroboam the first, which is like the one of the worst examples of kingship in all of the history of our people, the Father still strengthened his hand. He restored the border of Israel from the entrance of Hamath to the sea of the Arabah, according to the word of Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, which he had spoken through his servant, who? Jonah, the son of Amittai, the prophet who was from Gath Hepher. For Yahuwah saw that the affliction of Israel was very bitter. And there was no one, neither shut up nor left at large to help Israel. And Yahuwah had not said that he would blot out the name of Israel from under the heavens, but saved them by the hand of Jeroboam the son of Joash. And the rest of the acts of Jeroboam and all that he did, and all his might, how he fought, and how he recovered Damascus and Hamath for Yehuda in Israel, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel? So Jonah was very integral during this period of time, and we see that his days were days of oppression. And during this, he gave a prophecy that our oppression is going to be ended. Right? So now you look at the position that Jonah is in. Well, on one hand, I'm looking at our oppression, and we hoping for our oppression to be ended. But then on the other hand, you telling me that I'm supposed to go and bring deliverance to our oppressors? Now I got a conflict here. Right? Isaiah chapter 10, verse 5, right? So the Assyrians were known as a ruthless nation with a reputation for its oppression. Nineveh is the capital of Assyria, right? Isaiah chapter 10, verse 5. Woe to Assyria, the rod of my displeasure, and the staff in whose hand is my displeasure. Against the defiled nation I send him, and against the people of my wrath I command him to seize the spoil, to take the prey, and to tread them down like the mud of the streets. But he does not intend so, nor does his heart think so. For it is in his hand to destroy and cut off not a few nations. So I'm using Assyria as my weapon, but they don't see it that way. They don't realize that they just being used by me. They taking it a step beyond what I'm saying that they should be doing. So just again, imagine Jonah's disposition here and saying XYZ has been done to us by their hands. It's the last place I want to go. And they, for them to see your mercy at all, right? It says, but he does not intend so, nor does his heart think so, for it is in his heart to destroy and cut off not a few nations. For he says, are not my princes sovereigns? Is not Calno like Carchemish? Is not Hamath like Arpad? Now, I'm going to go back to the previous slide, because notice that these two places that I got highlighted here are the places that Jonah said, verse 28, how he recovered Damascus and Hamath for Yehuda and Israel. Right? So these two places are the places that got redeemed during this time and a part of this prophecy. There's something to think about. But Assyria is saying, is not Calno like Carchemish? Is not Hamath like Arpad? Is not Samaria like Damascus? As my hand has found the reins of the idols, whose carved images excelled those of Jerusalem and Samaria. As I have done to Samaria and her idols, do I not do also to Jerusalem and her idols? And it shall be, when Yahuwah has performed all his work on Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, that I shall punish the fruit of the greatness of the heart of the king of Ashur and the boasting of his haughty looks. For he has said, by the power of my hand I have done it, and by my wisdom, for I have been clever, and I removed the boundaries of the people, and have robbed their treasuries, and I put down the inhabitants like a strong one. and my hand finds the riches of the people like a nest, and I have gathered all the earth like forsaken eggs are gathered. Mm. And there was no one who moved his wing, nor opened his mouth with even a peep. So this is how Assyria, how Nineveh is getting down. Mm. Isaiah 52, verse 1. Awake, awake, put on strength, O Zion. Put on your garments of splendor, O Jerusalem, the set apart city, for no more do the uncircumcised and the unclean come into you. Shake yourself from the dust, arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose yourself from the bonds of your neck, O captive daughter of Zion. We was in some captivity and being bound up by some folks. For thus said Yahuwah, you have been sold for nothing, and you are redeemed not with silver. For thus said the master Yahuwah, at first my people went down to Mizraim or Egypt to sojourn there, and Ashur oppressed them without cause. Mm. And now, what have I here, declares Yahuwah, that my people are taken away for naught? Mm. Those who rule over them make them well, declares Yahuwah, and my name is despised all day continually. So this relationship that our people had with these people, it was not on the best of terms. It wasn't the best, right? Mm.
So you're saying that with Jonah's opinion, it felt justified to him because of um, what was known about those people.
All praises. I think he did not want to go to Nineveh for no reason. I just put it that way. But what you're gonna see is that the way that the father operates even supersedes what his expectation and his opinion is. And that's where the rubber meets the road with Jonah. And he knows all of these things about the ways of the father when it comes to it being towards him. But when it comes to being towards them, he like, nah, ain't no way. All praises. So we also know that after the days of Jonah, during the time of Nahum, destruction was proclaimed against Nineveh because of its unrighteous ways. So it's no doubt about whether or not they was righteous or not, or unrighteous or not. We know exactly where they stand. Nahum chapter 3, verse 1. Woe to the city of blood. All of it is a lie. Filled with plunder, the prey is not lacking. The sound of a whip and the sound of rattling wheels, the galloping horses of jolting chariots, mounted horsemen with bright sword and glittering spear, and many wounded, and a mass of dead bodies, and no end of corpses. They stumble over corpses because of the many whorings of the well-favored whore, the mistress of sorceries, who sells nations by her whorings and clans by her sorceries. Mm. Mm. See, I am against you, declares Yahuwah of hosts, and shall lift up your skirts over your face, and shall show nations your nakedness, and kingdoms your shame. And I shall cast abominations upon you, and treat you as foolish, and make a spectacle of you. And it shall be that all who see you flee from you and say, Nineveh is laid waste. So this is who he's talking about. Who does mourn for her? Where do I seek comforters for you? Are you better than no Aman, who dwelt by the Nile streams with waters around her, whose rampart was like the sea, whose wall was like the sea? Cush and Mitzrayim were her strength, even unlimited. Put and Lubim were your helpers. Yet she was exiled. She went into captivity. At the head of every street, her young children were dashed to pieces. Lots were cast for her esteemed men, and all her great men were bound in chains. You too are to become drunk. You are going to go into hiding. You too are to seek refuge from the enemy. Mm. Here we see the Lachish relief, which depicts the Assyrian invasion of Lachish or Lachish. This relief was found in none other than Nineveh. Here we see some of the ruthless practices recorded and celebrated by their kings. Here we see them ripping Israelite men in two and impaling them before their women and children. With this being said, we can see how perhaps Jonah's interactions and experiences with these people could have swayed and influenced his opinion of what was righteous and just judgment towards them. All praises.
When you suffer personally behind a spiritual condition, it's easy to take it personal and forget that it's spiritual, not personal.
All praises. All praises. So the Lachish reliefs are a set of Assyrian palace reliefs narrating the story of the Assyrian victory over the kingdom of Judah during the siege of Lachish in 701 BC. Carved between 700 and 681 BCE as a decoration of the southwest palace of Sennacherib in Nineveh, in modern Iraq. The relief is today in the British Museum in museums in London and was included as item 21 in the BBC Radio 4 series of History of the World in 100 Objects by the museum's former director, Neil McGregor. The palace room where the relief was discovered in 1845 to 1847 was fully covered with the Lachish or Lachish relief and was 12 meters or 39 feet wide and 5.10 meters or 16.7 feet long. The lion hunt of Ashurbanipal sequence was found in the same palace, right? And then it just says here the single inscription which identifies the location depicted in the reliefs reads, Sennacherib, the mighty king, king of the country of Assyria, sitting on the throne of judgment before or at the entrance of the city of Lachish. I give permission for its slaughter. So these are all things, again, if you're just looking up there at the picture, I'm at this point, I'm sure all of us have seen these, right? This is who it's from. Good old Assyrians and none other. They brought it back to Nineveh. This is where they want this. Whenever you come to Nineveh, they got what did he say? 39 feet of this on display. 39 feet by 16, almost 17 feet of this story on display. This is what they want to be seen. What they did. To who? None other than our people. So again, you just go and you looking and you see what might be influencing Jonah's opinion.
Same thing like now.
Mm.
Because a lot of people don't know it and don't recognize it. This is such a side tangent, so I apologize. But we talking about Assyria, and then we know Assyria eventually becomes Babylon, and Babylon eventually becomes Persia, so on and so forth. But these same things, especially dealing with our folks, they just repeat. They just repeat, and you can really tell because it repeats. Talking about, and it hit me as you were talking about ripping the people in two. If you look on the logo of the Levi jeans, what are they doing? Levi, Leviticus, Levi. Who is it talking about? The logo for Levi jeans is two horses with a pair of pants being pulled on each side. That's something that they used to do in our captivity to the men that would rise up to demasculate and make an example out of them. They would tie all their limbs to two horses, pull them till they split. Levi jeans logo. It's right there in our faces, so you can tell really ain't nothing changed but the year, but the date.
Nothing new under the sun. All praises. So Jonah's opinion.
the difference. Is there a difference between righteous indignation versus like your opinion of what a not opinion, yeah, when you have like righteous indignation based on what has, for us, what has been done. It's like how would I'm thinking about how would you properly deal with that? Because, like you were saying, us as a nation, as a people, we have been dealt very badly. But of course, we all know the reason why. I'm just saying, like, when you're thinking about, how and what has occurred, you start to, when those emotions start rising, before you know it, in a certain mood. So I'm just wondering, like, yeah, deciphering between righteous indignation, um, wanting justice to occur, but not taking it too far in a way that we're acting uh, out of, like, not in a way that we're not pleasing you who by our thoughts and our actions. You see what I mean?
If I could, I would say you can have righteous indignation. In fact, it's encouraged because when you're spot on, then you're just in agreement with the King of Glory. But we can't lust for vengeance and tie that to righteous indignation because when we desire vengeance, although it doesn't belong to us, now we want to place it in a season.
Mm.
And then we go a step further and we want to execute vengeance. That's a difference than having righteous indignation and wanting to see justice. Because when it's just righteous indignation, well, vengeance don't belong to me. Therefore, the season is up to you.
Mm.
Father willing, they repent. But if not, it's written what's going to come.
Mm. Mm.
And if they repent, then they got to face their shame anyway. So it's a win win.
Mm. All praises.
That's what happened to Jonah. He wanted the season to be now, but it wasn't. Well said.
And so I think about it like Jonah is today. Jonah is today because this for real. Like we talk about this. You and I talk about this a lot. Like, man, folk make it hard not to hate them, boy. Folk make it hard, hard. Folk make it hard not to just get. Oh, but yeah, staying in that mind frame, and then I really do. Just speaking for me personally, I got to snap back because it's like at the end of the day, the reality of it is, like I said earlier, the Most High wants that the wicked should repent and turn, but also, in all honesty, like the reality is a lot of people are not going to. So, hey, might as well just tell you what I'm supposed to say or say what I'm supposed to say because whether you do or don't, it ain't none of my business. It ain't on me. What is on me is to say what needs to be said. If you're offended or bothered by the truth of the or the facts of a matter, do your due diligence. Bring forth works meet for repentance. Do what needs to be done. There's room for that to do the work. And that kind of helps me come back to like grounding. Like, yeah, there's room for the work to be done if you're going to do the work. But if you're not, hey, either way, it don't matter to me. It's not my business. It's not my, you know.
I would just say, like, Yahuwah go hard.
Mm.
So you don't have to pray for him to get nobody. And he's not going to allow wickedness in his presence. It's written, he's bringing his kingdom to the earth. So literally, everybody has a certain amount of time. Those that are supposed to know better are expected to do better sooner than those that don't know no better. But either way, we all supposed to recognize that Yahuwah go hard and to fear him and his day of judgment enough to not be trying to call it forth before its season.
That part.
Because who could prepare enough to stay out the way in their own strength? And if we can't do it in our own string, then we got to move according to his beat.
Mhm. Mhm. All praises. All praises. So Jonah's opinion. Right. We're gonna see just what we're gonna jump to chapter 3. Right. Now in chapter 2, he had his saving moment, right? Where he on his way, father's like, no, sends the fish. Now he back on dry land, right? So it says, and a word of Yahuwah came to Jonah the second time, saying, arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and proclaim to it the message that I am speaking to you. What changed in the father's message?
Mm.
Nothing. Right?
Do what I said.
Yeah.
And Jonah arose and went to Nineveh according to the word of Yahuwah. Now, Nineveh was a great city before Elohim of 3 days' journey. And Jonah began to go into the city on the first day's walk. And he cried out and said, yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. And the men of Nineveh believed in Elohim and proclaimed a fast and put on sackcloth from the greatest to the least of them. And the word reached the king of Nineveh. So he arose from his throne and took off his robe and covered himself with sackcloth and sat in ashes. And he proclaimed and said throughout Nineveh, by decree of the sovereign and his nobles, no man or beast, herd or flock shall taste whatever. Let them not eat, let them not even drink water, but let man and beast be covered with sackcloth and call mightily to Elohim. And let each one turn from his evil way and from the violence that is in his hands. Who knows whether Elohim does turn and relent and shall turn away from the heat of his displeasure so that we do not perish. And Elohim saw their works, that they turned from their evil way. And Elohim relented from the evil which he had said he would do to them, and he did not do it. But it greatly displeased Jonah, and he was grieved. So I'm going to do it, but this ain't jiving with me, right? This just don't sit right. How could you? Not my Elohim, right? I don't like that part about you, right? And he prayed to Yahuwah and he said, please, Yahuwah, was this not what I said while I was in my own land? This is why I went ahead to flee to Tarshish. This is why I did it, because I knew you was gonna do this. Mm. For I know that you are an El showing favor and compassionate, patient, and of great loving commitment and relenting from doing evil. Oh, yeah, I know this about you. I just don't like that this you gonna apply this towards them.
Right. So I'm supposed to be partial.
Mm. And now, oh Yahuwah, please take my life from me. Listen to how he talk. Now, how many times, this as a side note, when something don't go our way and when we not getting what we want to get out of another individual, we be in this state. All, all sorts of irrational behavior and irrational thinking.
Now, I'm glad we're here so we can look at it for what it is. Did Jonah really want to die?
Mm.
What was his behavior like in the belly of the fish?
100% facts.
Did he not call out and
Mhm.
plead to be saved?
Mm-hmm.
So if he don't really want to die, is that manipulation?
Ooh.
You trying to manipulate the Most High? Well, just kill me then.
Mm.
You could have died back there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really want death? Or you trying to hotbox with the Most High?
Mm-hmm.
Now notice when we do it.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, that's interesting because almost like he's trying to. Literally, it's almost like he's trying to call the Most High at his bluff. Like, if I'm one of your chosen, why don't you just kill me instead of the whole nation? Or why don't you just, trade, make it like what?
You love me, don't you?
Yeah.
I'd rather be up out of here then.
Uh-huh.
If you gonna just act like that.
If you gonna save them, yep.
Every father's got emotions to be played on. Like he's a man.
Oh.
It's wild. It's wild when we think about it in depth like this,
When we move like this when we're not careful.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, we do. Current day.
Absolutely.
That's why these scriptures still apply today. Let's see. Right. Right, sis on the chat. She said, he don't want that heat. He ain't want that heat. He don't.
All praises. All praises.
Literally. He was right. Literally, he was mad when the sun was on. He ain't want that.
Yeah.
Yep. He says, and Yahuwah said, are you right to be displeased? Are you right to disagree with me?
Ooh, he hit you with the soft questions too. Are you right now?
So your opinion of what I should have done, you telling me it was more right than my righteousness?
So should I not be the merciful one?
Because that's the alternative. What we dealing with, okay. Because see, now this is another thing that we're gonna get into much later. But oh no, there does come a point where he will give you over to, oh well, this which how you want it to be.
Yeah.
All right, I tried.
Yeah.
This how you want it. Yeah.
Yeah.
This how you can get it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, have it.
It's the reason why he put him in the situation he did. Gives us a wake up call, because when it happens to us, like the opposite, we want that mercy. We want that. We need the mercy and compassion, And so he had to humble him, just like Yahuwah humbles us.
All praises.
I just want to call back to the scripture we started with. He said, basically, let us do all that we can do to enter into his rest. The only way we enter into his rest is by being at peace with him. We're no longer warring against the Most High. And the only way to get to that point is to come into agreement with him, which means we have to learn of, digest, understand, and bring forth his ways. In other words, put on his ways. So our opinions will stop us from getting rest when we in this condition. It says there's no rest to the wicked. So there's something wicked about our opinion when it has us in disagreement in our eyes with the Most High.
All praises. All praises. It says, then Jonah went sat on the east side of the city and made himself a shelter there and sat in the shade to see what would become of the city. You already know. Yeah, I just want to see, right? So notice that Jonah's opinion was formed based on his own personal beliefs derived from his own personal experiences. This caused him to err in his judgment of what Yahuwah declared was right and wrong. The fruit of his difference of his understanding and opinion was his disobedience to the word of Elohim, right? This difference in opinion caused him to hop on the boat, buy a ticket, and hop on the boat to go to the other side of the world.
That part.
So I'm hoping that we are seeing how our opinions and understanding can cause us to be at odds with Yahuwah and his word. So notice that Jonah was displeased and it grieved him. So much so to the point that he thought to himself that he considered death better than living. All of this because of a fallacy in his understanding. All because you wrong in your thinking. Hmm. Picking back up at verse 6, it says, And Yahuwah appointed a plant and made it come up over Jonah to be a shade for his head to deliver him from his discomfort. And Jonah greatly rejoiced over the plant. So now, when it's in agreement with your opinion of how things should go and your feelings and your perspective and everything is the gravy train, no problems, right? He rejoicing. You ain't do nothing to get this. You ain't no nothing.
Can you make it any plainer? When you get into mercy, it's all good.
Mm-hmm. But as morning dawned the next day, Elohim appointed a worm which struck the plant so that it withered. And it came to be when the sun came up that Elohim appointed a scorching east wind, and the sun struck on Jonah's head so that he grew faint and asked for his life to die and said, It is better for me to die than to live. And Elohim said to Jonah, Have you rightly become displeased over the plant? And he said, I have rightly become displeased, even to death. I'm standing on my opinion. I know I'm right.
Ooh-wee.
And Yahuwah said, You felt sorry for the plant which you have not labored for which you have not labored, nor made it grow, which came up in the night and perished in the night. And should I not pardon Nineveh, that great city, in which are more than 120,000 beings who have not known their right hand from their left, and much cattle? So notice that there were aspects of the Father's judgment that Jonah did not understand or account for. Jonah was only capable of seeing Nineveh through one lens. He only saw them from one perspective. The Father saw this situation from an even broader view and took more into account than Jonah did. His view of judgment was also skewed in one direction. Even in his own words, he acknowledged how the Father's compassion works when he was being dealt with according to his own disobedience, right? Jonah chapter 2, verse 7. I always brings this up. He says, When my life fainted within me, I remembered Yahuwah. Now, when you was about to die, as I just brought out, now you want to remember Yahuwah. And my prayer went up to you into your set apart Hekal. Those observing false worthlessnesses forsake their own loving commitment.
So the lesson he learned is his opinion resulted in him not receiving mercy. He forsook his own mercy. He forsook truth, right reasoning. If I could, I just want to share Psalm 147 in verse 19 and 20. He showeth his word, he referring to Yahuwah. He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He have not dealt so with any nation, meaning he ain't shown this to anybody else. And as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Adonai. Looking back at Jonah 4 and 11. And should I not pardon Nineveh, that great city, in which are more than 120,000 beings, who have not known their right hand from their left, and much cattle? Going back to the beginning, when we were talking about this awakening and zeal without knowledge, going out in public and yelling at people for not knowing better is not what we're called to do. We're supposed to put on his ways so that when our lives overlap naturally in passing, there's something about the way we move that causes them to look up, makes it a little easier for them to choose to be merciful, makes it a little easier for them to pray, to humble themselves, not to try and humiliate people because they don't know what you have because it hasn't been brought to them to study XYZ. How are they going to see the value in it if we defame it with the lack of mercy, the lack of patience, the lack of spiritual maturity? It ain't gonna work that way. We'll get ourselves banished.
Hmm. Hmm.
And just to like add to a little bit, bringing it back to like what we were talking about with the zeal without knowledge, but pertaining to this awakening and this walk. The zeal without knowledge is the, like I said before, knowing, being awakened to, no, I am important to the Most High. There's a reason this has happened. These are my people. This is who we are, and so on and so forth. The true knowledge comes in this knowing now and identifying, I got a responsibility. That's the real knowledge right there. Because the Most High is not just waking us up to say, hey, you're Jacob. Doesn't it feel great? No. If, as you just read, and Psalm was 141? 147, sorry. I know it was a 1 and a 4 in there somewhere. No. But as it says in 147, he haven't shown these things to anybody else. So how can one hear unless one be sent? How can one believe unless they hear?
Hmm.
How can other nations know better and understand their right from their left if he don't send the ones who he gave the instructions to teach the instructions? And that's the responsibility that we're supposed to be waking. That's the knowledge that we're supposed to attach with that zeal. No, it's not for me to want some revenge and get back. It's for me to want them to stop doing the wickedness in the first place. Because if that happened, everything would be set aright. There would be no.
And who's not gonna suffer behind their actions? So you don't have to want to get back. Your who's not partial.
That
You
part.
literally gonna reap what you have sown. So nobody's gonna get away with the foolishness. So you ain't even gotta get all upset.
Yep.
You gotta focus so you don't step out of bounds or catch a flagrant foul.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To your point, I'm thinking about Devarim or Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 6 through 9, maybe. And you shall guard and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding before the eyes of the people who hear all these laws, and they shall say, only a wise and understanding people is this great nation. For what great nation is there which has Elohim so near to it as Yahuwah our Elohim is to us whenever we call on him? And what great nation is there that has such laws and righteous right rulings like all this Torah which I set before you this day? Only guard yourselves and guard your life diligently, lest you forget the words your eyes have seen, and lest they turn aside from your heart all the days of your life, and you shall make them known to your children and your grandchildren. So, just to your point, we're supposed to be sharing, and then again, zeal without knowledge. We're supposed to have Yahuwah's knowledge, and the purpose of that is to be righteous and share with others what Yahuwah says, not us, because we have to be cleansed from our unrighteousness and our flesh. Got to make it about Yahuwah.
All praises. All praises. So, with all that being said, what was true and what was false in his understanding? That's the key, right? He had some falsehoods in his understanding of how he thought justice and mercy should be applied, right? How he thought the Father's compassion should be extended. That wasn't in truth, it was in falsehood. But then, meanwhile, wanted to be applied towards him and his people because we flat out seen that his people ain't got it together. And while Nineveh don't know better, no, y'all do.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
Come on,
That part.
come on. And with the Father, just because you've been forgiven doesn't mean you don't have a long road ahead of you.
Mhm.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but
Saul,
yeah,
Paul,
Shaul
yeah.
or Paul, he was forgiven.
Mhm.
He was endowed with power, but still had some things he had to suffer in order to prove himself to belong to Yahuwah and no longer to wickedness. And we all do. This is a more mature understanding of how the Father moves. So we don't have to pray for somebody's condemnation because if anybody goes too far and doesn't heed those warnings,
Mhm.
the Father will wash his hands of you.
Mhm.
And you literally be on your own until the judgment.
Mm.
And for us to pray for that for somebody else will cause him to look at us like, well, should I apply that to you?
Mhm. 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 All praises. So Proverbs chapter 4, starting at verse 1 says, Children, listen to the discipline of a father and give attention to no understanding. For I gave you good instruction. Do not forsake my Torah. For I was my father's son, tender and the only one in the eyes of my mother. Then he taught me and said to me, Let your heart hold fast my words, guard my commands, and live. Get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget and do not turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not leave her and let her guard you. Love her and let her watch over you. The beginning of wisdom is get wisdom. And with all you're getting, get understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
All praises. Just speaking to the wisdom and understanding, I'd
Mhm.
like to share a verse from Job. Job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, come on.
Mhm.
Give me didn't have it planned out and it's like, all right, is it this one or is it that one? But I will find it. It was 2080.
Yeah.
No, 28 and 28. Job chapter 28, verse 28. And unto man he said, Behold, the fear of the Adonai, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding.
Mhm.
So to fear the consequence of doing the opposite of what the Heavenly Father says we should do,
Mhm.
that is wisdom,
Mhm.
which will cause you to depart from evil, showing that you have understanding.
Mhm. Mhm. All praises. All praises. So when we're talking about understanding, and then I just ask the question, well, what is understanding, right? And can we form opinions based on a faulty understanding, right? And H998 is Bina, right? Which is understanding knowledge, meaning understanding is wisdom, right? H995 is being, which means to separate mentally or distinguish, that is generally to understand, to attend, to consider, to be cunning, diligently, to direct, to discern, to be eloquent, to feel, inform, instruct, have intelligence, right? These are all ways that they translated this, in particular in the KJV, right? To be prudent, to be skillful, to teach, to think, to make or get understanding, right? Again, we're talking about intimate knowledge of a thing, right? Eloquence comes from an intimate knowledge of something. You know this thing through and through, so you can explain it and you can, from you're a master with this thing, right? To separate mentally, to discern. I can no, put that over here. No, this over here, right? Understanding, especially of self, is nope. That right there is personal opinion. This is the word of Yahuwah. This is righteousness. That's unrighteousness. This is common. This is set apart. This is, and you can discern those things.
All praises.
Beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. With all you're getting, get understanding. As I said, the fear of Elohim is the beginning of wisdom. Mm. So now, many times we're going over what took place in the garden. Notice that this all occurred because of opinions on a matter contrary to what Elohim said himself. So keep in mind what formed this opinion of the fruit of the garden, right? And we're going to see that this all basically stemmed from an opinion. Now, it wasn't based on the facts because the Father laid out the facts. But something, and then this is going to be kind of, we'll deal with this at a later point as well, of no, there are things that can take place that can influence or sway an opinion, right? Mm. So Genesis 3:1, it says, and the Nakash was more crafty than all the lives of the field, which Yahuwah Elohim had made. And he said to the woman, is it true that Elohim has said, do not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, or to the Nakash, we are to eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim has said, do not eat of it, nor touch it, lest you die. And then Nakash said to the woman, you shall certainly not die, for Elohim knows that in the day that you eat thereof, your eyes shall be open, and you shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. Now, again, understanding was the ability to separate between these two things, and they don't have understanding between good and evil. You don't have this understanding.
No experience with evil to this point.
So
that's what he was playing off of. Like, wait, Elohim knows good and evil? What is evil?
All praises. So, and the woman saw that the tree was good for food. Was it? No. You eat this and you're going to die. That's not good for food.
Come on.
And that it was pleasant to the eyes. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, I guess. If something is going to kill me, I don't care how good it looks. I don't want it.
Come on.
But based off of that opinion in that moment, it made sense, right?
Right. It still happens to this day.
Absolutely.
To this day. They dress up a burger well enough. You don't care if it's printed with a 3D printer.
You are. When you're right, you're right.
25-cent burger.
Say less. You got me.
Right.
Matter of fact, give me $30 worth.
Right.
25 cents times 30. Oh my goodness.
They ain't had
$30.
they ain't had those since hot now.
But yeah. So it says it was a tree desirable to make one wise. Was it? Is this really what you desired? And she took of its fruit and ate. And she also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. So notice that a personal opinion was formed regarding the tree. This personal opinion was not based on fact, but on a personal belief, although it was in a falsehood. In her opinion, the tree was pleasant to the eyes. It was desirable for wisdom, and it was good for food. The man agreed with this opinion, and when we look at it from the top, this opinion was one that was influenced by the wicked one. So where did this even come from? Where did this thought process even come from?
Come on.
Mm.
No praises. Won't do that.
And that's something, though. While you're getting that scripture, that's something because it's still literally how the mic. You're fine. While you're getting that script, I was gonna say it is something. It's on this side of it. Like I said, we're working to have the knowledge and the zeal, and so it's not for us to sit here and like judge and try to bring down the Father's hand. No, kill him now. Do it now. But on this side of it now, like we can really look back and think, golly, I was stupid. I was stupid. Because that's still how the enemy operates to this very day. It's very simple, but at the same time, very complex. You dress up something well enough, then you don't care that there's bleach in the water. Or you don't care that there's human meat in your hot dogs. You put enough toppings on it and you give it a jingle that's memorable in your mind, like you that's what you're gonna go for. Same way. Make it look good. Plant that seed of an opposite of an alternate opinion that this is better than what the Most High have ordained, and you ain't got to do nothing but sit back and watch. We're gonna kill ourselves.
Mhm.
So where did this even come from? 2 Corinthians 10, starting at verse 3. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through Yah to the pulling down of strongholds. Well, something has to enter first before it can develop a stronghold. So that's saying it's had residency. Casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of Yah. This is one of those things that come in, and the wind and the waves beat against that house. And great was the fall of that house, because it was not founded on.
All praises. So, yeah, all praises. So Proverbs 10, verse 11, it says, the mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, but violence covers the mouth of the wrong. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all transgressions. Wisdom is found on the lips of him who has understanding, but a rod is for the back of him who lacks heart. The wise treasure up knowledge, but the mouth of a fool is near ruin. Excuse me. Proverbs 12:23. A clever man is concealing knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaims folly. Mm. He who watches over his mouth, this is Proverbs 13:3. He who watches over his mouth guards his being, but he who opens wide his lips comes to ruin. Ecclesiastes 5:2 says, do not be hasty with your mouth, and let not your heart hurry to bring forth a word before Elohim, for Elohim is in the heavens and you on the earth. Therefore, let your words be few. For a dream comes through the greatness of the task, and a fool's voice is known by his many words. So we can see how, so can we see how opinions can be formed and shared through foolishness and a lack of knowledge? Now, one thing that we can bank on is that a foolish opinion is going to be proclaimed and it's going to be spread because a fool can't help itself. That's what fools do, right? So it's no lack or no drought of foolish opinions. Those will always be there in an abundance.
Especially when you couple or tie in someone's inner opinion of self. And if they're really needy for conversation and the social aspects of being in somebody's presence, then for the sake of having something to say, they will spot out an underdeveloped and underthought opinion just to throw their hat in the ring instead of keeping that and studying further before they even speak on it.
All praises. All praises. With this being said, later in our study of this topic, we will not only see how opinions are formed, but also how our opinions can affect others and how the Father views this. Right? So that's for a later date. So as we continue, we are going to see why humility to Elohim is so important. His truth regarding a matter is absolute and without error, even when we don't have understanding. Whereas our opinions may include error based on a lack of understanding. We will also see that one's ability to determine truth from their own faulty opinion requires searching, proving humility and denial of self. Understanding the difference between truth and opinion is what separates foolishness from wisdom. So Proverbs 3:5, trust in Yahuwah with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Know him, Yada, know him in all your ways, and he makes all your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear Yahuwah and turn away from evil. So notice here there is a warning not to lean on your own understanding, but to have knowledge of Yahuwah in all our ways. Many times we form our views and opinions based on our own understanding of a matter, not taking into account the ways in which our personal experiences, external influences, and our own hearts' desires have affected the conclusions we have come to. Proverbs 16:1. To a man belongs the preparations of the heart, but from Yahuwah is the answer of the tongue. All the ways of a man are clean in his own eyes, but Yahuwah weighs the spirits. He has one opinion of himself and his ways. Yahuwah sees it a completely different way from a completely different angle. Commit your works to Yahuwah, and your plan shall be established. Yahuwah has made all for his purpose, and also the wrong for the day of evil. Everyone proud in heart is an abomination to Yahuwah. Hand to hand, he goes not unpunished. By loving commitment and truth, crookedness is pardoned. And in the fear of Yahuwah, one turns away from evil. All praises. Proverbs 12:15. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he who listens to advice is wise. Proverbs 9:9. Give instruction to a wise one, and he is wiser still. Teach a righteous one, and he increases in learning. The fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the set apart one is understanding. Proverbs 1:1. The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel. For knowing wisdom, this whole book, like, this is what it's for.
Come on.
For knowing wisdom and discipline, for understanding the words of understanding, for receiving the discipline of wisdom, righteousness, right ruling, and straightness, for giving insight to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. The wise one hears and increases learning, and the understanding one gets wise counsel. For understanding a proverb and a figure, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline.
I'm not well studied enough to say what that's called when it's done that way. But if you look at it, you can see that verse 7 sums up and explains 1 through 6. And then you can just keep reading that all day and meditating on the Father, and your wisdom will be added to.
All praises. I'll say that the book of Proverbs is written in such a way, it's written in that way, with couplets, triplets, and things like that, where it's you following this trail, and then boom, here's the conclusion, then it's on to the next topic, and then boom. But yeah, all praises. So what is a bias, and how can this influence our opinions, right? So again, an opinion is a view or judgment formed about something not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. So you see the little man in the corner there. That's a picture of a bias, right? A bias is a disproportionate weight in favor or against an idea or thing, usually in a way that is closed-minded, prejudicial, or unfair. Biases can be innate or learned. People may develop biases for or against an individual, a group, or a belief. In science and engineering, a bias is a systematic error. All right. And by innate, right, I think we understand what a learned behavior is, or a learned bias is, but it being innate is inborn, it's natural, right? This is your natural inclination, right? This is, in philosophy, it means that it's originating in the mind, right? This is something that is in you, right? So it could either be external or internal, right? So notice here in the bottom right hand corner, you have the fact, and then you got the belief, right? So a bias is a prejudice in favor or against one thing, person, or group compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair, right? So in statistics, it's a systematic distortion of a statistical result due to a factor not allowed in or not allowed for not allowed for in its derivation. A cause to feel or show inclination or prejudice for or against someone or something. In statistics, again, to distort a statistical result. Introduce bias into a method of sampling, measurement, analysis, etc. Right? So, in scriptural terms, this is called showing partiality and judgment. When we look at what this term implies, we see that it is a prejudice in favor or against a thing. This means that a judgment has already been made, i.e., the word prejudice, a prejudge. Mm. A judgment has already been made on a matter without considering or taking into account all of the facts or views regarding a matter. We know that as believers and members of the covenant with Yahuwah, this way of thinking is unacceptable and prohibited. Right?
It's unjust wait.
Mm. All praises. So, proper judgment. What we are going to see is that proper judgment on a matter does not require one's personal views, but instead requires facts, truth, and impartiality. It also requires knowledge and understanding of a matter to judge it righteously. Many times when dealing with our opinions, we have not been diligent enough in seeking a matter out and identifying our own personal biases, leading us to make an unrighteous judgment or come to a partial conclusion in regarding a matter, right? So Deuteronomy 1 verse 9, he says, and I spoke to you at that time saying, this is Moses speaking, I am unable to bear you by myself. Yahuwah your Elohim has increased you, and see, you are today as numerous as the stars of the heavens. Yahuwah Elohim of your fathers is going to add to you 1,000 times more than you are, and bless you as he has spoken to you. How do I bear your pressure and your burden and your strife by myself? Choose men wise and understanding. So again, qualifier, right? Some wisdom and some understanding. And known to your tribes, and let me appoint them as your heads. And you answered me and said, the word which you have spoken to us to do is good. And I took heads of your tribes, wise men and known, and made them heads over you, leaders of thousands and leaders of hundreds and leaders of fifties and leaders of tens and officers for your tribes. And I commanded your judges at that time, saying, when hearing between your brothers, judge righteously between a man and his brother, or the stranger who is with him. Do not show partiality in right ruling. Hear the small as well as the great. Do not be afraid of anyone's face, for the right ruling belongs to Elohim. Right? So whatever words that you give on this matter, you don't have to worry, because no, this came from the Father. I'm speaking his words. And a case which is too hard for you, bring it to me, and I shall hear it. And I commanded you at that time all the words which you should do. Leviticus 19 and 15 says, do no unrighteousness in right ruling. Do not be partial to the poor or favor the face of the great, but rightly rule your neighbor in righteousness. Do not go slandering among your people. Do not stand against the blood of your neighbor. I am Yahuwah. Deuteronomy 10:12, he says, and now Israel, what is Yahuwah your Elohim asking of you, but to fear Yahuwah your Elohim, to walk in all his ways and to love him and to serve Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being. So this means that you're going to have understanding a wisdom of Elohim, because fear of him is what? It's the beginning of wisdom. Yeah. To guard the commands of Yahuwah and his laws, which I command you today for your good. See, the heavens and the heaven of heavens belong to Yahuwah your Elohim, also the earth with all that is in it. Yahuwah delighted only in your fathers to love them, and he chose their seed after them, you above all peoples as it is today. And you shall circumcise the foreskin of your heart and harden your neck no more. So when you have an uncircumcised heart and a stiff neck, what is that saying about you? What does that mean? You valued and you chose your opinion and the way you felt about it more than what he said about it. It's as simple as that. Like I said, when we keep looking at it, it's really like this is the story of the scripts over and over and over again. For Yahuwah your Elohim is Elohim of mighty ones and master of masters, the great El, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality, nor takes a bribe. He executes right ruling for the fatherless and the widow, and loves the stranger, giving him food and a garment. And you shall love the stranger. Uh-oh. For you were strangers in the land of Misraim. For Yahuwah your Elohim. Fear Yahuwah your Elohim. Serve him and cling to him and swear by his name. So it is worth noting that we are called to judge a matter as Elohim would judge a matter as members of his covenant. Right? Mm. James chapter 3, right? The connection between the mouth and the heart. Starting at verse 1, he says, not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, knowing that we shall receive greater judgment. For we all stumble in many matters. If anyone does not stumble in word, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle his entire body. Look, we put bits in the mouths of horses for them to obey us, and we turn their body. Look at the ships too. Although they are so big and driven by strong winds, they are turned by a very small rudder wherever the pilot intends. So too, the tongue is a little member, yet boasts greatly. See how a little fire kindles a great forest. And the tongue is a fire, and the world of unrighteousness. Among our members, the tongue is set, and one defiling the entire body, and setting on fire the wheel of life, and it is set on fire by Gehenna. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and creature of the sea is tamed and has been tamed by mankind, but no man is able to tame the tongue. It is unruly, evil, filled with deadly poison. With it we bless our Elohim and Father, and with it we curse men, who have been made in the likeness of Elohim, despite your opinion of them. Out of the same mouth proceed blessing and curses. My brothers, this should not be so. Does the fountain send forth sweet and bitter from the same opening? My brothers, is a fig tree able to bear olives, or a grapevine figs? So neither is a fountain able to make salt and sweet water.
Gotta choose a side.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to go back to verse 8. It's saying, if you can do this one thing, you'll be above most.
Mm-hmm.
But no man is able to tame the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to touch on that because it's not an excuse or a cop out. Yeah, nobody in their own strength.
Mm-hmm.
But as a believer, somebody answering a true call, we're supposed to be tethered to the Father.
Mm-hmm.
To where in his strength, this tongue can be tamed.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's not tamed, it just shows that he's not the head, at least in that moment.
Yep. Fear. It's the fear. Yep. All praises. Mm-hmm.
Next, we go back to Mishlei chapter 16, when it said the preparations belong to men, but from Yahuwah is the answer of the tongue. So it's the same. So if you're keeping your answers based on thus say Yahuwah, then that's the way to tame, make sure that your answers are proper.
Praises. Okay, so he says in verse 13, who is wise and understanding among you? So it keeps coming back to this wisdom, this understanding. Let him show by his good behavior his works and meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast against and lie against the truth. This is not wisdom. This is not the wisdom coming down from above, but it is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where jealousy and self-seeking are, there is confusion in every foul deed. But the wisdom from above is first clean, then peaceable, gentle, ready to obey, filled with compassion and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace.
All praises. For where jealousy and self seeking are, there is confusion in every foul deed. So every time I choose my opinion over what thus says Yahuwah, I'm no longer seeking Yahuwah, which means I'm not seeking the merciful one. I'm not seeking forgiveness of my sins. I'm not seeking eternal life. I'm not seeking light or anything that comes from him. In this moment, I'm only seeking that my own desire be fulfilled.
Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm. All praises. Luke 6:45, the good man brings forth what is good out of the good treasure of his heart, and the wicked man brings forth what is wicked out of the treasure of his heart. For out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So you can find out what's in a person's heart by, quote unquote, listening to the opinions. Mm. So notice that there are things that can exist within a person's heart that can sway how they speak regarding the truth. Keep in mind that the tongue, though it is small, boasts of great things. Mm. It can oversell. Mm. Yeah. Mhm. So our opinions can get us in trouble with the Father because when we enter into covenant with Him, we become His ambassadors. With this being said, we will see that there was a standard that was set that the Father upholds with those that are His. We will see that this was one of the things that Mashiach showed us through His behavior that we must also master if we desire to be called His. We are called to, right? So Isaiah 58, verse 13, it says, if you do turn back your foot from the Shabbat, from doing your pleasure on my set apart day, and shall call the Shabbat a delight, and set up the set apart day of Yahuwah esteem, and shall esteem it, not doing your own ways, again, Proverbs 3, nor finding your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words, then you shall delight yourself in Yahuwah. Then you will delight yourself in Yahuwah. And I shall cause you to ride on the heights of the earth and feed you with the inheritance of Jacob your father. So is there a reason why we're not riding on the heights of the earth and being fed with the inheritance of Jacob our father?
Yes, sir.
Hmm. For the mouth of Yahuwah has spoken.
Come on.
Hmm.
Can't get oranges if you plant apple seeds.
Hmm. Deuteronomy 4 and 1. We went to Deuteronomy 4 earlier. It says, and now, O Israel, listen to the laws and the right rulings which I am teaching you to do, so that you live and shall go in and possess the land which Yahuwah your Elohim of your fathers is giving you. Do not add to the word which I command you. Do not take away from it, so as to guard the commands of Yahuwah your Elohim, which I am commanding you. Pair that with what Akoti brought out earlier from next few verses in that chapter. All right, so John chapter 5, verse 19 and 20. Right? And we're gonna see how Mashiach, how he moves, right? Therefore, Yahusha responded and said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, the Son is able to do none at all by himself, but only that which he sees the Father doing, because whatever he does, the Son also likewise does. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all that he himself does. And greater works than these he is going to show him, in order that you marvel. John 12:44. Then Yahusha cried out and said, he who believes in me believes not in me, but in him who sent me. He who sees me sees him who sent me. I have come. My goodness. I'm sorry. TV pollution. The Joe Biden thing. I couldn't help but think. uh, if you know, you know. Never mind. But John 12:46. He says, I have come as a light into the world so that no one who believes in me should stay in darkness. And if anyone hears my words but does not watch over them, I do not judge him. For I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world. He who rejects me and does not receive my words has one who judges him. The word that I have spoken shall judge him in the last day. Because I spoke not from myself, but the Father who sent me has given me a command, what I should say and what I should speak. And I know that his command is everlasting life. Therefore, whatever I speak, as the Father has said to me, so I speak. Clear cut pattern here. So, also, as we look at this, notice the different opinions that were being formed by the people. What were they basing their opinions on of Mashiach, right? So, John chapter 7, starting at verse 1. And after this, Yahushua was walking in Galilee, for he did not wish to walk in Yehuda because the Yahudim were seeking to kill him. So they seeking to kill him, one, because they formed an opinion about him. And the festival of the Yahudim was near, the feast of Sukkot. So his brother said to him, get away from there and go into Yehuda, so that your taught ones or your disciples also see the works that you are doing. For no one acts in secret while he himself seeks to be known openly. If you do these works, show yourself to the world. For even his brothers did not believe in him. Yahushua therefore said to them, my time has not yet come, but your time is always ready. It is impossible for the world to hate you, but it hates me because I bear witness of it, that its works are wicked. You go up to this festival. I am not yet going up to this festival, for my time has not yet been filled. And having said this to them, he stayed in Galilee. But when his brothers had gone up to the festival, then he also went up, not openly, but as it were in secret. The Yahudim, therefore, were seeking him at the festival and said, where is he? No, he's going to be here. And there was much grumbling about him among the crowd. Some were saying, listen to these opinions, he is good. But others were saying, no, but he is leading the crowd astray. However, no one spoke openly of him for fear of the Yahudim. So all kinds of opinions is being formed based on this. And do they really know him?
That's the issue.
All praises. John 7:14. And about the middle of the festival, Yahushua went up into the set apart place, and he was teaching. And the Yahudim were marveling, saying, how does this man know letters, not having learned? Yahushua answered them and said, my teaching is not mine, but his who sent me. If anyone desires to do his desire, he shall know concerning the teaching, whether it is from Elohim or whether I speak from myself. He who speaks from himself is seeking his own esteem, which is what they was trying to tell him to do, right? But he who seeks the esteem of the one who sent him is true, and no unrighteousness is in him. Did not Moses give you the Torah? Yet not one of you does the Torah. Why do you seek to kill me? The crowd answered and said, you have a demon who seeks to kill you. Is this fact? Is this truth? Or is this just their opinion? Yahushua answered and said to them, I did one work and you all marvel. Because of this, Moses has given you the circumcision, though it is not from Moses, but from the fathers. And you circumcise a man on the Shabbat. If a man receives circumcision on the Shabbat, so that the Torah of Moses should not be broken, are you wroth with me because I made a man entirely well on the Shabbat? Do not judge according to appearance. So we make conclusions and come to assumptions and form opinions a lot of times just based off of appearance.
And that appearance being based on the physical realm, not what's going on in the spiritual realm.
All praises. It says, but judge righteous judgment.
Come on.
John 8:26, he says, I have much to say and to judge concerning you, but he who sent me is true. And what I heard from him, these words I speak to the world. They did not know that he spoke to them of the Father. So Yahushua said to them, when you lift up the son of Adam, Then you shall know that I am he, and that I do none at all of myself, but as my Father taught me, these words I speak. And he who sent me is with me. The Father has not left me alone, for I always do what pleases him, even unto death. As he was speaking these words, many believed in him. So Yahusha said to those Yahudim who believed him, if you stay in my word, you are truly my taught ones, and you shall know the truth. Mm. Now we get into something that ain't gonna change. But notice you got to stay in the word to have the truth. Mm.
Proverbs 1 again.
Mm.
But fools despise wisdom and instruction.
Mm.
If you overthrow that instruction, you ain't willing to make the change. How do you get to the wisdom and the understanding of the matter?
Mm-hmm. Good luck trying. Good luck trying. Trust me, I've tried it before. I didn't get there. I didn't get the wisdom that way. It ain't come like that. Only headaches and chastisements, and that's how that works. But all praises. He says, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So, with that being said, we had a told place to stop. And we're going to get into, like I said, many layers and aspects of how this thing really has been played out and laid out for us in the scriptures so that we can capitalize on it. Because, not to get too ahead, but we're going to see literally everything that we interact with in one way, shape, form, or fashion, in one way or another, has been strategically placed before us to cause us to craft, alter, whatever the case, an opinion. It's people that get paid the big bucks called influencers. Literally, that's what they're called, influencers. So, yeah, like I said, not to get too ahead of myself, because that might not even be in the next lesson. But because it's like I said, it's a lot to cover. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully it was a Barakah blessing, edification, and gave us all, like I said, I know I can say it for me, gave us all something to chew on, meditate on, and really self-analyze and really dig within and look and say, okay, let me get understanding of self first. Why do I have this position on said thing? Or why do I feel this about this? Why do I think this way about this? Why do I move this way? What's at the root of these things? And was this really, did it originate in the Father or does it originate somewhere else? Right? So, yeah. Again, not to get too ahead of myself, but yeah, hopefully, yeah, this was one of those ones that is definitely worth meditating on.
Indeed, all praises to the King. This is the type of meditations we need to have daily. That's why we were told that. You know, when you're walking about, when you're in your house, write it on your doorpost. So that you're always musing over these things. Not just so that you recite the scripture, but no, so you're musing over it and reflecting.
Absolutely. Gaining understanding.
All praises.
Definitely tough lesson. Total Rabbi. Definitely looking forward to the mini series or whatever Abiyahur allows us um, allows you to teach. But yes, definitely great meditations, and of course, just praying that we all have the proper understanding of Yahuwah's word, so we can cancel out our emotions and our feelings and our opinions, because at the end of the day, they don't matter. They don't matter. They make you feel good, and that's about it. But really, we're trying to please our Yahuwah, and we are considered His children, or we want to be. So we have to act as such. So yes, Tov lesson.
All praises.
No praises to the Most High. I third that motion, second that, third that motion. Absolutely, Tov lesson. Am I too opinionated? And what is my opinion based in? Like you said, these are things that we must be musing over every day to check ourselves. Like you had brought out one lesson, the righteous man need not be judged, not because he is above or he don't ever do nothing wrong, but he's got those checks and balances in place that he's judging himself before it gets to a point that the Most High have to bring an outside figure and say something to that person. And that's the goal. That's what we're trying to get to, is to the point where we are judging ourselves before the Most High would have to have an outside person to come, because at that point they're like, I ain't gonna say it's too late, but at that point it's almost like everybody see your mess now. you know mm-hmm
And showing your shame in order to get your attention. He ain't trying to put you to death. He's trying to save your soul. He
mm-hmm
wants you to become that righteous man. Nah, I got to think about what I'm thinking about, because if not, my shame will be exposed again. Like
Absolutely.
most of the time, that's how you become that person.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just because you were born without sinning. Nah, you don't realize that your shame have been exposed, and if you don't want that to keep happening, you better start self-checking.
That part.
That part. So definitely toe blessings, so that because, and I like the way that these lessons have been going, the direction these lessons have been going, because these are the things that we have to start meditating on, is how to adjust and improve the inner man. Because uh what's that song, the bridegroom is coming, will you be ready? So we better get that inner man in order, period.
I was gonna say what helps me is acknowledging that these are my emotions and these are my feelings and these are my opinions. Just put it on the table. Okay, this is how I feel. And then, okay, Father, let me help me out before not to, not to let this be what's reigning inside of me. I want you, your ways, but be honest with yourself. These are my opinions and my emotions and my feelings. Okay, now after that, let me bring it back. Okay, reel it back in. Okay, I denounce my emotions and my feelings and and then just go from there. But I think the number one key thing to do is be honest. Be honest with yourself, so you can be able to. That's like the first stage, before you can move on. You got to be honest.
Yeah, because if you don't deal with it, then you get into evasion, and that kicks off a whole nother alternate route because you're not even dealing with it. Yeah, so
All praises to the Most High. I do look forward to the next lessons that will be coming out. All praises to the Most High in regards to this and more inner man work that we need to be doing. Um, and so, yeah, if that is all, I don't think there are any announcements this week, except for, I will say this. Have y'all heard of the Abram Homeschoolers convention that is getting ready to take place this coming next month, this coming November?
tell us more.
Well, I'm glad you would ask. The Abram Homeschoolers a convention that is getting ready to take place in November. It is going to be November 22nd through the 23rd. It is a convention taking place in LaGrange, Georgia, not too far from Atlanta, as I understand it. 2 days of fun, resources, and just fellowship for the Abram or Ibrit Hebrew family, or Mishpachah, if you can, out there. Make your way down. Please do, because it's going to be an awesome, awesome event. We're going to have vendors that are selling things like school curriculums, um, school just learning aids, and everything to do with homeschooling. We're going to have workshops. We're going to have speakers that are going to talk about various things. There's going to be bounce houses. We're going to get our bounce on for the kids and everything. And there are going to be some truth music performances, I believe. um don't quote me on this, and I would double check, but I do believe Daoud Akim is going to be performing, as well as Snipes, as well as I believe Yapa Q is going to be performing there. Um, and I'm missing some folks. I am, and I know I am, so I apologize, but I'll double check that list. But we're gonna have some truth music performers there, so that we can have some for the adults. But the real deal highlight is going to be on day two, that 23rd of November, when these babies are going to be performing. We're going to have children performers. A couple of youth you may or may not know may be playing the piano there. Just gonna throw that out there. A couple of youth children that you may or may not know might be playing a piano recital. So definitely, if you can, plan to come out, share the information with a friend, with your mishpaka who may or may not have heard about this. Even if you can't make it, share the information. Maybe somebody else can make it. Maybe somebody else wants to support and tell other people, like, hey, tell a friend, tell somebody else about this, so that we can, because this is the first annual Abram Homeschoolers Convention. We want to make this recurring theme, a reoccurring thing. It is Heritage Homeschooling Advocates, as well as Benaya Shalom Homeschool, that are partnering up to bring this to the community. So definitely, in whatever way you can dispense your energy to it, your prayers, if you want to donate so that we can give these kids some, because we are, to all the children performers, we do intend to give them some kind of recognition, a gift and certificate. We do plan to do giveaways there. If you even want to donate to see that come to fruition, to make this one of the best events for the children, please do follow the Abram Homeschoolers Convention Facebook page. Look for us. It is ABRYM, Abram Homeschoolers Convention. I'm not going to spell all of that out. Homeschoolers, home and schoolers is one word. Convention, convention. There we go. That's Abram Homeschoolers Convention Facebook page. That's where we have all the updates. Oh, I almost forgot too. We're going to have a formal dinner as well. So during that performance time for those children, it is going to be a formal dinner. It is literally going to be like a recital situation. There's going to be an art auction there. The children are going to do art pieces. And I know, the children are going to do art pieces, and we're going to auction those off. And yeah, we're just going to try to make this one of the biggest and best Hebrew homeschooling things that's going to that's for our community. We're going to try to do that and make sure that this is something that we can do for ourselves. It's time for us to rise and shine. You know, we talk about doing for ourselves, we talk about educating our own, we talk about, this, that, and the third. Okay, we out here trying to do it. Let's put some energy behind it, and let's help to get it done. All praises to the Most High. So that's the only, I believe, update for this week um, that I have. Does anybody else have anything?
I'll say we're encouraged further toward that.
All praises.
Not too opinionated. People perish for lack of knowledge. I mean, what can we contribute to the life of our people? Just be encouraged and keep going forward.
All praises, all praises. Toda Ab Yahuwah. Well, if that is it, listen, my prayer for us this week, collectively, all of the children of the Most High, is that we agree with His word. Period. Let us agree with His word, even when it is not in favor of our opinions and our emotions and our judgments. Our judgments, not His judgments. May we agree with His word. May He keep us throughout our week. May He hear us in our time of distress. May He make us exponentially more than we are this day. And may that be for our toe, and for our improvement, and for our livelihoods, and not for our destruction, because He will multiply us and give us over unto our uncleanness and unto our wicked desires. So may He make us exponentially more than we are this day, and may that be for our toll and for our livelihood. Hallelujah. And to that, we are going to say Shabbat Shalom, y'all.
All praises.